could a man freeze to death in jail? It's the focus of an Atlanta News First investigation after a lawsuit. This is Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm Sierra Cummings, joined with Andy Pirati. This is such an important story. You've done so much on the well-being of our inmates housed in Metro Atlanta jails. Walk us through how you found out about this story and set it up before we introduce.
So I've been covering in-custody jail deaths for years. The attorney representing this family reached out to me to say, hey, we've got an update. We had previously covered the story you're about to hear and watch a couple of years ago, but we have new details about a very unfortunate death. From the moment Anthony Lamar Walker arrived at the DeKalb County Detention Center in 2022,
his behaviors were very erratic over the last few days.
Jail staff sensed something was off.
He bangs a lot, he yells a lot, and he paces a lot.
The 34-year-old wasn't eating. He urinated on his clothes and threw his food tray. His mom, Tony, says her son battled schizophrenia and believes he was going through a mental health crisis. According to his medical records, the jail knew he suffered from mental illness. It treated him before. Detained this time for alleged aggravated assault.
So I figured, okay, great. Not great that he's there, but at least he's somewhere I know where he is and he'll get medicated properly.
8 days after taking him into custody, deputies found Lamar unconscious. Jail records show medical staff didn't perform CPR.
He made contact with EMS and have EMS en route to the DeKalb County Jail. Reference to a possible deceased male inmate.
According to the DeKalb County Medical Examiner's Office, Lamar didn't die from physical trauma, an overdose, or by suicide. His cause of death, hypothermia. Found with no clothes on and cold to the touch the day after Christmas. What was that like hearing that he essentially froze to death?
Unbelievable. Like, I feel like I'm in a hell episode of The Twilight Zone. You let a person freeze to death? No one did their job.
Stay inside, stay warm if you can. This is pretty historic December cold for us.
Days before Lamar was found dead, jail staff sent this email reminding employees to prepare for the cold weather and to give inmates 2 blankets each.
And it was like really, it was cold, like really cold, because like sometimes even when I would walk through, I would have my, my jacket because it was like really cold.
And it'll feel like 5 below, so absolutely layer up as much as you can.
According to a wrongful death lawsuit filed in federal court, it claims the sheriff's office and medical staff failed to protect him, alleging Lamar received no medication, no mental health screenings, and did not adequately check on his well-being. This nurse claims she checked on Lamar around 7 a.m. hours before he was found dead.
And we had a small conversation. I think I asked him if he hadn't even eaten. And I said, put some clothes on.
According to the security video, that didn't happen. Watch closely. The nurse walks inside the jail pod shortly after 7 a.m., but never checked inside Lamar's cell before walking away.
And they did nothing. Like, how do you treat somebody like that? Just leave them in a cell on the floor, naked, when it's freezing. All you gotta do is open the door.
Tony knows the cell where her son died well. She was a DeKalb County deputy at the same jail for nearly 23 years, once awarded the Employee of the Month.
I used to be very proud of the fact that I worked there, but now I'm embarrassed. I'm upset, I'm hurt, I'm deeply hurt.
DeKalb County Sheriff Melanie Maddox declined interview requests to discuss Lamar's case, and in an investigation by the sheriff's staff found jail employees did not violate any policies.
Which is a real slap in the face.
Tony disagrees, and she wants to hold the sheriff's office responsible for her son's death.
So you telling me you saw no wrong with that when you didn't even do your job?
Andy, this is such a crucial follow-up to a story we did years ago, but you really go in depth with these details. You feel for this mom. In that lawsuit, it says Anthony didn't receive medication. There was no well-being check. I wonder what was obvious in his medical file that seemed to indicate he'd been medicated before.
So the claim was in the lawsuit, so I immediately reached out to the attorney and said, hey, if I'm going to report about this claim, do you have the medical records to back it up? He provided the medical records, and it clearly shows that a number of years ago he was experiencing and displaying very similar mental health related crises behaviors, and that they gave him medication that helped subdue those behaviors. And I'm talking about acting erratically, things that you simply don't do when you're not having a mental health crisis. And they gave him medication. And the healthcare provider, during the just days before he died, it recognized that, hey, we did provide this person with medication in the past when he was having a mental health crisis. For whatever reason, they just chose not to do it this time.
So we know people will be watching this behind the investigation, but there are many more people who will be listening. So let's double down on that body camera footage for people that won't be able to actually see it. Let's explain it again. It really is so crucial to the storytelling of all of this because it shows that the nurse seemingly didn't check on Anthony's cell. Explain that a little more, but also how you got this really compelling footage, and excuse me, not body cam footage, surveillance footage here, but explain all of that.
So we originally got it from his family's attorney, and then I filed a public records request receiving most of the records, most of the recordings. And what you're seeing, if you can't see and you're listening, is you're seeing him first come into the jail, and you can clearly tell that he's acting erratically, not normal behavior, because there are multiple deputies walking him to a cell. And then a few days later, they bring him to a different part of the jail that deals with individuals like himself, likely having some sort of mental health crisis. And then the part in the story in the package that you heard is at one point the nurse telling a sheriff investigator that I came in around 7 a.m., I walked to his cell, I had a brief conversation with him, and then you can see her in that video not go to his cell around that time and then walk away. Now, I want to make it a point that there are multiple instances where either deputies or what appears to be medical personnel going to his cell and looking at him. And in many instances, sometimes they say, oh, he was breathing, or he had moved a few hours the last time I saw him. So it's unclear exactly who last saw him alive. But what is very clear is that they did not go inside his cell to check on him. They knew it was cold. They knew he was naked. They knew he was wet, but no one bothered to go inside to make sure he was well. He wasn't covered in blankets when they found him, unlike what the jail administration told jail staff to do at that time. And it was so dark, too, there are multiple instances where you can see a deputy bring flashlight, and they're like shining a light inside the cell. That's how dark it was, because the light in his cell wasn't working. You would think, though, that if someone is acting erratically, if you would think if it's freezing temperatures, he's not wearing any clothes, and he's wet, that you would go inside to double check to make sure he is doing okay. At least that's what the argument is from the family. The video shows clearly that that did not happen hours before he passed away.
With your reporting and video like this, some people might assume, well, this case might be a slam dunk in some kind of wrongdoing, but it's ultimately up to the courts to figure that out civilly. And just explain to our audience who may not understand, that is a long process. This isn't something that quickly gets resolved.
Yeah, when we reported this about 2.5 years ago, the lawsuit was just filed, so they didn't have a lot of the evidence that this news story that we're providing shares, and it just simply takes a long time to get these records. And one of the reasons why that is because there are two investigations that happen typically when someone is found dead in a jail: a criminal investigation and an internal affairs investigation. And those things can drag on for years. And a lot of times you can't get any of the internal affairs files, which included the interrogation videos or the interviews that you saw in the piece, until those investigations are complete. So oftentimes that means families have to wait years to find out whether they can get justice or not, and it's very frustrating for a lot of families.
Incredible reporting. Stories like this really matter. Thanks so much, Andy. Thank you for tuning in to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. For more on this story, go to atlantanewsfirst.com and click on the A&F Investigates tab. You can listen to more award-winning investigations wherever you get your podcasts by searching Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First. And tune in Sundays for an hour-long episode of Uncovered, where we highlight some of our biggest investigations that impact our communities.